So there was so much in this week's Torah portion in a lot of the mystical Hasidic writing that I could choose from. It's Parshat Baha'alotecha, which means to light. It's referring to Baha'alotecha, when the Israelites, when you raise up the lamps, or when you cause the lamps to continue to light. There's so much great stuff about light in this parsha. Um, but I wanted to touch on this teaching by Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhinsk, 19th century Hasidic rabbi. You may have heard of his brother, who's the infamous Reb Zusha. Reb Zusha is the one, the story of he goes up to heaven and God says, why, you don't have to be like Moses. Why don't you be more like Zusha? As a way of saying that who we're really meant to be is to be ourselves. But Rabbi Elimelech brings this teaching that I think is really relevant to this idea that we have of spiritual practice. And I'm going to say a little bit about spiritual practice in this teaching too, to kind of ground it and normalize it. But he says, God spoke to Moses. I'm going to quote the Torah here. Tell the children of Israel to offer the Pesach at its time. Right? We're now in the book of Numbers. They're in the wilderness. The whole Exodus has happened. So the Pesach, the original Pesach offering in Egypt in face of the Egyptians happened. And now there's been a part of that, this injunction to continue to observe Passover every year, and to do that by offering the Pesach sacrifice. So God says to Moses, tell the children of Israel to offer the Pesach at its time on the 14th day of this month in the evening. So Rabbi Elimelech notices here that God says two things. It says to offer the Pesach in its time, b'moado, and it also gives the specifics of when, on the 14th day of this month in the evening. So then the Torah continues. Moses told the people of Israel to offer the Pesach. And they offered the Pesach on the first month in the evening, and the children did everything that God had commanded Moses. And so Rabbi Elimelech is kind of noticing these differences when God talks to Moses, when Moses talks to the people, that in some spaces it's saying offer it just at its time without an exact moment. And then on some times it's actually talking about when exactly you're supposed to offer it, on the 14th of the month in the evening. And what he does is he plays on the word b'moado, which is at its time, that moed also means festival. And there is really the thought that we, when it's time for a festival, for a holiday, for a sacred special time that we set aside, we perform certain mitzvot. Rabbi Elimelech teaches. We shake the lulav, we eat matzah, we do something that is specifically about connecting us deeper with the values of the holiday, something to remind us. And, and for a lot of us, we may not work on that day. We may really create this time to focus on, we'll say, spirituality or values or things that are deeper than the everyday workaday world. And that's really important. It's really important to set aside that time to do it. But then it also the Torah, he comments, says it also not only gives the specifics of the time that you're supposed to offer the Pesach offering, or the specifics of the time of the festival, but also he mentions it without offering a specific time, just saying, go ahead and offer it in its time, when it's, as a way of saying that the offering, the connection to the values that are behind Passover or any holiday is something that you should practice every day. It's not about just the day of the holiday, right? So we may focus more in on Passover, more in on freedom, on what does freedom mean to us in our lives during the festival. We may focus more on tshuva or trying to repair relationships during the month leading up to the high holy days and the high holy days. But those are not meant to be just practiced during those times. He actually teaches that we do a deep dive during those festival times so that their reverberations will continue and be a part of our everyday. So that we're doing tshuva, we're making apologies, we're owning our mistakes with people, not just around the high holy day time, but all the time. We're reflecting on where it is that we're bound and we're not living in full freedom and empowerment all the time during the year, not just on Passover. That deep Passover dive is so that it will continue to reverberate and we'll be able to draw strength on that throughout the year, but it's not meant to be limited to that. And this is really what I wanted to offer us as what spiritual practice is about, and also to consider as we move into our meditation, how do we engage our meditation practice this morning or anytime we do in a way that's not just that's conscious of wanting what we do in our meditation to extend into our day and into our week and into our month. It's not just about this moment in time here. So, in a sense, first of all, I'll just say this because it just bears to be saying. Spirituality, a lot of people think, is really about something that is otherworldly, right? It's something that is, there's the physical, and then there's the spiritual, which is something else. And what I want to just offer is, at least when I'm using the word spiritual or spirituality, we're talking about those non-physical dimensions of life that is about enhancing the physical dimension of life. So spirituality is also values, living our values in the world, making decisions in the physical world that are guided by greater principles. That is kind of what I mean when we're talking about spirituality. When we talk about being able to stay present in each moment with whatever we're doing and feeling like our actions have impact and ripples beyond just ourselves and what we're aware of, that's a way of talking about spirituality. Just making an effort to be present with the aliveness, the vitality of life with whatever we're doing is also a way of talking about spirituality. So spiritual practice then becomes, what are the concrete things that we do that are that in some ways take us out of our kind of normal everyday world to focus on being able to live and embody and direct our attention to certain values and reality. Just, in the same way that when we are exercising, right? Exercising, saying, I'm going for a run, I'm going to the gym, I'm doing yoga, whatever it is, I'm doing those things. Yes, I may enjoy the experience in and of itself, but I'm also doing them so that I can be more mobile in my body, I can be healthy, I can do more things in my life, I can enjoy my life more, right? I'm practicing specifically in order for me to do everything in a more fulfilling way. And so when we have a holiday like Passover or Shavuot or Sukkot or the high holy days, those are moments of intensive practice and intention to say, I'm going to really immerse myself in these deeper values and reality so that I can live them throughout the year. And the same thing with Shabbat. I practice Shabbat and all of the observances and customs around Shabbat so that my week, I'll be able to bring some more of that awareness into my week. And so it is also with meditation practice. I practice bringing my attention to this moment, to just the simple reality of this moment, my breath, my body, the sounds around, everything. And I do it in a way that I want to orient myself in these next 20 minutes in a way that is how I want to orient myself in life. Right? We become what we practice. If I want to be a more loving person, then I practice in my meditation being able to be loving in this moment to myself and to everything that's happening. If I want to be more present with and attentive to what's going on around me and the people in my life, then I practice that in the 20 minutes of meditation, being present without all the other distractions. If I want to be open to the divine reality, to God's presence in the details of my life, whether I'm working or with family or even going to Trader Joe's and doing the shop, I if I want to do that, then I practice in my own in this next 20 minutes, how can I be with my reality in a way that opens me to something greater? So um, so that's what we're gonna practice as we meditate this morning is to have the awareness that what I'm doing right now is not only for the experience in the moment, but I'm also practicing for life and practicing for how I want to be in the world. All right. So let's find a comfortable position that you can sit in for a period of time without having to shift around too much. We'll start with a nigun, a melody. And for those of you who are fairly new to nigun, to melody, um, that these actual melodies that we sing were melodies that were created by deeply spiritual people, by people who were practiced at opening to greater degrees of consciousness, and they created melodies from these deeper places of consciousness with the intention that the melody would be a pathway to help embody those spaces in our own lives. So I invite you to sing along with it in your own space. We're all muted, so nobody's going to hear you. You'll just hear me as the guide for the melody. So this one is really been attributed to the Baal Shem Tov, the great spiritual master, the founder of the Hasidic movement in the 18th century. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. Last time. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. I, 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 I. Yeah, I, 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 I. Just let yourself settle in, feeling the vibration of the melody in your body. There are actually two more parts to that nigun, but we're just going to stay with the first two this morning. So begin by noticing the movement of breath in the body. Just notice where the air enters the nostrils or the mouth. Pay attention to the way the body expands to make room for the inhale as the air goes through the nostrils or the mouth and the chest or belly expands. And then notice that moment where the inhale reaches its maximum length and then switches to an exhale, following the air out through the nostrils or the mouth with your attention, noticing the contracting of the body till the exhale reaches its maximum length and then switches back to an inhale. So we're just breathing normally. The only difference is that we're paying attention to all the aspects of the inhale and exhale, all the aspects of the breath, the way the body responds to the breath, the sensations that are present with the breath, and just the movement in the body of the breath itself. If you'd like, you can really break it down and make a decision at the beginning of each inhale to just be present for one cycle of breath, for one inhale and exhale, right? We can all do that. We can all be present and notice the sensations and the process of one inhale and exhale. And then at the end of that exhale, make a decision again to be present for another. Letting the end of each exhale be another conscious decision to direct our attention to that movement of breath for just one cycle. And as you're present for each cycle of breath at a time, also expand your awareness to include not only the breath, but the entire body. Notice and aware of the shape of your body in space, the distance between the bottom of your spine, the top of your head, the way your arms hang out of your shoulder sockets and the resting place of your hands, the length of your legs as they come out of your hip sockets, and the resting of your feet on the ground. So that with each inhale and exhale, not only are you present with the movement of breath, but also with the sensations in the entire body. You can notice that awareness is not like a flashlight where you have to shine it on one place or another. You have to either be present with the breath as it moves through the nostrils or the feeling in your legs. But that awareness is more like a lantern or a lamp that can illuminate wider and wider circles. You can be present with breath and body. You can also extend your awareness to include the sounds around you, in your space, outside your space. So you're present with each cycle of breath. You're present with the breath itself. You're present with the shape of your body and the sensations in your body. You're present to the sound waves that vibrate ever so slightly, your eardrums, coming from your room and from beyond your room or your car. And in this very open and wide radiance of awareness that can notice, can register all these different parts of your moment-to-moment experience. Also include any thoughts or pictures in the mind or voices that will go through the mind. There's space and room for that too. The practice is how to be present and notice the rising and falling of concepts and images and thoughts in the mind at the same time that you're also present to that movement of breath and the sensations of the body. Notice how there has to be a softness to your attention, to your awareness, in order to encompass so much of our moment-to-moment experience. We can't be holding too tightly to this or that part of our experience. And there may be aspects of our experience that draw our attention in, usually tightness or discomfort in the body, will really draw our attention to that strong sensation. And the practice is, as soon as we're aware that our attention is really narrowing into one part of our experience, we soften, open up, and let into our awareness not just that strong sensation, but also the breath and the rest of the body and the sounds and the thoughts. In a moment, I'm going to be quiet and let us just practice being with all these aspects of our experience, being rooted in the breath, in the movement of breath. And as we practice being present in this way, I invite you to consider we become what we practice. How do I want to be with the people in my life? How do I want to open to each moment of my life? What kind of attitude, orientation, openness, clarity, warm-heartedness do I want to bring to each moment of my life? And can I practice that here and now in how I am with my moment-to-moment experience here and now? So again, if you find yourself in the practice of being lost in thought or focusing in on one part of your experience to the exclusion of the others, know that nothing wrong is happening. You're not doing it wrong. There's nothing that's natural. But the practice is, as soon as you notice, to open back up to the movement of breath and body, the entire symphony of the moment. Welcome back to the screen and each other. If there was two main points that I would like for us to be able to bring away from some of the thoughts this morning, it's that first, spiritual practice means that whatever it is that we're doing, that we're calling spiritual practice, whether it's doing a mitzvah, observing something Jewish, meditating, consciously going for a walk in nature, whatever it is, what makes it practice is that it's not an isolated event in itself, but it's connected to how we want to live the rest of our life. So that's the first piece, right? We're practicing for life. So how do we engage that activity in a way that makes it practice? And the second aspect of it is that it is just practice means practice. It does not mean perfect. It does not mean that there's anything that should be happening when we're meditating or when we're doing it. It's just we may have different experiences as we're doing it, and that's fine, but those experiences that we have is not really the point of why we're doing it. We're doing it because we're aspiring to build a certain kind of muscle, a certain kind of muscle of attention, of awareness, of open-heartedness, to be able to be with discomfort. It's just a practice, and it's going to look different every time we do it. So I want to open it up to hear other thoughts and reflections, questions, anything that anybody would like to share. Ellen.
So I did take this meditation practice and think in terms of being more tolerant and aware of others, and trying to look more deeply into others and where they're coming from. And then there are people who say, I prayed on it. Yes, that's a lot of my Christian friends who say that. What is the difference?
The difference between praying on it and, well, say again, the first.
Well, like I was meditating on becoming a more accepting, respectful human being to others and open. So I was meditating on that. But there are people who say, I pray on that. I pray.
Yeah.
And again, to be perfectly honest, those are more my Christian friends that say that.
Yeah.
But what would be the difference?
I mean, I think, well, first of all, I want to say that I think our Christian friends can teach us a lot about praying on it or praying for people or any of those things. It's something that we as Jews have an allergy to that that articulation of things, because obviously there's a lot of historically of our relationship with Christians that has not always been fully accepting of who we are and what our paths are. But I think it really is a very similar thing in that both meditating in the way that we meditated this morning and praying on something is about saying, I want to bring intention to my attention, right? So we pay attention to things all the time. And a lot of us are distracted. I mean, there's so many things that are competing for our attention in life. A lot of the times we don't bring intention to our attention. It's kind of a lot of the times we're in a more reactive mode, whatever it is that's pulling us in the moment to respond to do. So to say I'm going to pray on it or meditate on it is to say I'm going to have some intention about how I'm going to pay attention. So that could mean when you say I'm going to pray on it, it can be a decision that I have to make, right? I'm not sure whether I'm going to do A or B. Let me pray on it, which is another way of saying I'm going to give some thoughtfulness to that attention, but I'm going to also give some thoughtfulness in a way that brings God into it. What does God want for me in this moment? I'm going to pray on it. What does God want for me here? What's the thing that achieves my highest values? What allows me to be the person I want to be in the world? So that's the praying on it. And what I would say is I think that action that way has a little bit more mental activity involved in it, right? I'm using my mind to think it through. Now, I'm not just using my mind. I'm not just being rational about it. I'm also trying to invite in a sense of intuition, a sense of, greater purpose into it. When we meditate, it really is about just at least the way that we're meditating here. And as you know, there's lots of different ways to meditate. But the way that we're doing it here is to pay attention to the present moment in a certain way. I'm not in this moment using my meditation to solve a problem. I'm not using my meditation in this moment to send healing or good thoughts to somebody else, like praying for somebody else. That's a really worthwhile activity. But what I'm doing right now is I'm practicing paying attention to just what's in the present moment, because as we've talked about in here before, there's infinite depth in the present moment. And God, the divine, the alive energy of creation is only in the present moment, is right here, right now, in this moment, in this space. And so the more that I pay attention in this moment in a more deeper, more concentrated way, the more I will begin to become aware of more depth in the moment. And that doesn't necessarily, now, when we're talking about we become who we practice, I want to do that. I want to bring certain quality to the way that I pay attention. So maybe sometimes more than others, maybe sometimes the quality I'm going to bring is just real intense concentration. Maybe that's what my focus is. Maybe I want to bring more of a open-hearted quality of love. And so I be with what my breath and what's happening in a way that is welcoming, in a way that's inclusive, in a way that doesn't resist, in a way that just is like a big hug for my experience right here, because I'm wanting to bring those qualities more. So I hope that's a helpful distinction. Yeah, Sandy.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
When I think about taking on a practice, it holds a sense of regularity more than a one-time deal, and a sense of kavana, intention with it, and choice. And so all those components seem to separate it from just something I do when I feel like it here and there. And when you were talking today before the meditation about how we have at our fingertips the ability to use the themes of the various holidays during the calendar year at any time. I really like that idea as because I feel like I'm trying to build a toolbox for my older years, and that's something really to put in it. I don't have to wait for any particular holiday. At the moment that I need some certain aspect, I can choose to bring those themes and even that holiday to my mind, and use it in a meditation, or just use it to contemplate or apply. So thank you.
I love those the two aspects of that are so important. Toolbox, that part of what a spiritual practice does is help build a toolbox. But what I'd love to hear more from your perspective, Sandy, is when you mention about consistency, you know, and repetition, like to do something even when you don't feel like it. How do you, what is that, how does that benefit you? What do you notice are the benefits to having a commitment to do something with regularity?
Well, what popped into my mind was actually a physical practice of, you know, I'm taking up swimming again, and I want to figure out, you know, what way would work this summer for that. And so for a number of weeks, I've been doing it when I feel like it, but now I'm considering scheduling it into my week. And then I know that would bring me to a time when I might not really feel like it, or want to deal with my hair or other things that go along with that. But it will, I never, swimming is like taking a shower for me. I never finish it and say, oh, I wish I didn't go swimming, or I wish I didn't take a shower, or something like that. It's always nice after. So I don't know if that answers your question at all, but that's what came to mind.
Well, I know, I mean, in talking about just the physical aspect, right, is that by having it scheduled on a regular basis, one of the things is you'll probably see more results as far as your own strength, your own flexibility, your own, you know, to be able just for sheer time. And it's the same thing with our own meditative practice or spiritual practice. You do something regularly, you observe Shabbat regularly, we spend time to meditate. We will start to see results as a result of that repetition. I think there's also something in that what happens internally in that moment of not necessarily feeling like it, but making the commitment to do it anyways. Like what happens internally? What I want to suggest is that what it strengthens is it strengthens our awareness of whatever it is that we're practicing and doing in our own being. So if I want to say here that I'm really committed to, I want to live, it's important to me to live in a way that is able to be open and present and loving. And I'm very clear that this practice will help me in that area. So every time I feel a resistance for whatever the reason, oh, I've got other things to do, or you know, I'm feeling tired. Right now, there's kind of competing values in the moment. Maybe it's the to-do list that I have, maybe it's that I'm tired. And also there's that desire to grow and meditate, you know, that the meditation comes from. Every time I choose the meditation or the spiritual practice based on my commitment, I assert its primacy in my life, in my own being. I say, this is more important than just feeling tired, or more important than doing my errands at Costco. in the morning or whatever it is. And this, we can apply this and think about this as far as Shabbat too.
Yeah.
To have one day a week that we say is like, this is a day for depth of awareness, to not engage in that busyness. And so every time we make that decision, we strengthen that way that we want to live in our being. So it's not only the actual practice that happens, it's also the fact that we've chosen it, even when we feel like we don't want to. We've honored that commitment that is already strengthening that awareness in our life.
Mm.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you everybody for a beautiful Tuesday morning. Always is a great way to start out my day. So thank you. And I hope everybody enjoys. It's finally feeling like summertime to me, and
Mhm.
everybody's enjoying the season. Take good care.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.